So it was International Women's Day the other day, which inspired me to make this video. And I want to just talk a little bit about oppression and just the mindsets behind all these types of oppression. And I was just reading that a woman got arrested for attending a peaceful vigil and protest, and she was tackled to the ground. So attending a peaceful vigil and protest against violence resulted in violence. Women needed to come together in a COVID-safe way to show solidarity with one another. And there was also talk of a new policing bill by Priti Patel which threatens people's rights to protest. This is just taking away people's freedoms, people's rights to peaceful protest. Can we not challenge anything anymore? Without protesting, how does change happen? Anyway, as it was International Women's Day the other day, I wanted to talk about a few things, talk about oppression and how I think all types of oppression go hand in hand. Racism, xenophobia, transphobia, ableism, there is a connection between all these types of oppression. And we need to stand up against this inequality and injustice. Behaviour these days, such as sexist behaviour for example, has become socially acceptable. And certain behaviours, such as making jokes about any oppressed, marginalised group. Jokes like this just further isolate people and make people question if there is something wrong with who they are, and this just further isolates people. All this does is normalise inequality and a system that perpetuates all these types of oppression. And this can also trigger violence and abuse towards people. I see things on social media, for example, people sharing pictures of someone with a visible difference with cruel captions on them. And whether you're harassing someone in the street or sharing these pictures, we need to remember that everyone is beautiful, and people who have been culturally and societally conditioned to believing what the commercial construct of what's beautiful is needs to stop perpetuating the stigma that anyone who doesn't comply with this standard is not beautiful. This is the exact reason why social exclusion and bullying take place. Because of this herd brainwashed culture. If not laughing at oppressive discriminatory jokes isolates me, I don't care. I don't find humour in denigrating and objectifying others. And if you disagree and want to call people out on this behaviour, you can get labelled a snowflake. We don't have to find this behaviour funny. And we shouldn't have to feel isolated because we don't want to join in and don't want to laugh. If I'm labelled a snowflake for opposing disparaging behaviour about rape, mental illness, or any oppressed, marginalised group, then I'm one proud snowflake. Because people don't have to be silent about injustice and inequality. We can call each other out on this behaviour. Men can stand up to one another and call each other out on sexist behaviour. Women can empower one another and not be judgmental and stand up against these patriarchal expectations. Women's freedom is restricted as a result of misogyny. But is it right to react to this by saying, well, women oppress men too? Yes, men do suffer from this patriarchal system. Are men's freedoms restricted as a result of men being oppressed? And is violence towards men motivated by misandry? And why are women and girls repeat victims of violence? These gender stereotypes hurt everyone. And this is all part of the patriarchal system. Women have been raped, abused, harassed, objectified, you name it, because they are female. Women have fought and faced male violence for centuries. Women have had to fight to overcome systemic oppression and exploitation. This is not to say men have not suffered in any way as a result of patriarchy. We're saying combating male supremacy helps everyone. The only way to resolve this is to address inequality and to not undermine misogyny by making the oppressed into the oppressor. By standing up to this inequality helps men too. For example, in parental roles where women are considered the caregivers. This also helps men have a voice too in parental roles. And helping men to not feel like they have to remasculinize through violence and anger. And just because we have women in power, this does not mean we have escaped patriarchy. I think we really need to talk about why certain people are at a disadvantage, why our mindsets and our values are this way, and why these hierarchies prioritise certain qualities, which are considered inferior and superior to one another. If you're not this way, you're not feminine enough, and if you're not this way, you're not masculine enough. This is control of people's choices, what we have been conditioned to believe. Just how we've been conditioned to believe what the commercial construct is of what beautiful is. This system of doing something to further yourself at the expense of others, built around feeling more superior and better than one another. It's about status, competition, power, privilege. This capitalist, egotistical mindset of suppressing and dehumanizing others. This social pressure of living up to these hierarchies, where certain qualities are considered better. Why do men feel they need to show anger and violence in order to feel emasculated? And why do women feel they need to be preoccupied with oppressive practices in order to conform to the commercial construct of patriarchal femininity? Why do we as women have to face a stigma every day and are shamed into conforming to a patriarchal capitalist system? Women don't exist to be sexy or to be made to feel less in society because we've been preoccupied with oppressive practices. Women can have a voice and don't need to be shamed into complying with the commercial construct of patriarchal femininity. This is controlling people's choices. People should have the right to be self-determining people, and not have a stigma attached to you, not told we're not equal, not told we're not beautiful. People are denigrated, demeaned, objectified, oppressed, all for ego, all for privilege. We need to talk about our mindsets and our values and, why people's behaviours are like this. The reasons behind these behaviours that we have towards one another. We need solidarity and to be more mindful and conscious over our behaviours so we don't perpetuate this system of oppression. So I want to end this by saying we are all equal. No one needs to dominate. We need to have a voice and empower one another. Stand up against this stigma that we all have to face every day. So don't let others put you down. Be who you want to be. We are all equal. We are all beautiful. Not what the media portray as beautiful, to make money, to oppress people. Not what the commercial construct is of what's beautiful. You are beautiful and wonderful the way you are. Be who you want to be, not what you've been socialized and conditioned to be. This is all made up to colonize our minds. So here's to equality and love.